Good evening and welcome to the TV9 Our Town Special. During the last 4 weeks, we've toured 4 communities across eastern Iowa, each with their own rich heritage. We've shown you the first school this side of the Mississippi, introduced you to the legend of a Nobel Peace Prize winner, given you a taste of some scrumptious food, and let you explore the wonders of a state park. In the next hour, we'll revisit each of those places in Tipton, Cresco, the Amanas, and Maquoketa. We begin in Tipton. Like so many county seats in the state of Iowa, Tipton sits in the middle of the county. Actually, our town Tipton sits in the exact center of Cedar County. But there is a historical reason for its precise placement. And as TV9's Dave Fransman shows us, our town Tipton didn't start by accident. It was all part of a well-executed plan.
This Cedar County map dates to 1854, just 14 years after Tipton was founded. But the geographic plan, even then, was obvious. Tipton is right smack in the middle. In fact, local historian Don Stout says you can locate a marker on a Tipton street and pace off the steps to the exact center of Cedar County. Now, this location wasn't an accident. In the early years, residents had to travel to the extreme southern part of Cedar County to do all their courthouse business.
People in the northern part of the county, around Red Oak, up in there, they were disgusted. They had to go clear down to Rochester to this rented room down there for any court matters. So they started to agitate that they wanted it moved to the center so it would be equally distant for all people.
Eventually, 3 commissioners were chosen to pick the location for a new county seat that would house the first Cedar County courthouse. The name Tipton was a political trade-off. Historian Stout says one commissioner didn't like the location but agreed it was okay if the town was named for his friend, General Tipton of Indiana.
That might seem a bit unnecessary to be exactly so precise and to locate Tipton in the exact center geographically of all of Cedar County, but in the case of this community, it's a move that worked out fairly well. It tended to draw people into Tipton to shop, to work, and to live.
Stout says Tipton grew quietly, but excitement occasionally surfaced. One of the town's first judges, Wells Spicer, was an example. He left Tipton in the 1860s to seek gold, but wound up in Tombstone, Arizona.
Come on there!
You remember the famous gunfight at the OK Corral? It was Judge Spicer, formerly of Tipton, who presided at the trial of well-known lawman Wyatt Earp. And then there was the so-called Cow War of 1931. Cedar County farmers violently protested the state plan to inspect cattle for bovine tuberculosis. Iowa's governor called out the National Guard, and crowds of 400 or 500 farmers clashed with troops just outside Tipton. But that kind of activity was rare, and farmers were the ones who really helped Tipton take off as a town.
Surrounding farmers needed places to do the purchasing and sell their produce at.
Stout says after all these years, Tipton is still in the center of things, at least for Cedar County. Dave Fransman, KCRG, TV9 News.
Well, the history books say some Cedar County residents didn't use the name Tipton at first. They preferred the name The Center. Well, every town in Iowa has a controversial moment in its past, and our town Tipton is no different. As we showed you, the people of Tipton are protective about their heritage, and nothing shows it more clearly than how this small community banded together to give a piece of history a fighting chance against the wheels of progress. TV9's Jenna Miller explains.
Take a trip down Tipton's main drag, and you'll see the town's main source of controversy in 1990, Hardee's.
Hi, welcome to Hardee's. May I take your order, please?
This century-old sugar maple cast a dark shadow on the restaurant's construction. 8 years ago, the lot looked like this. Builders planned to tear down the houses and take down the tree.
We didn't realize anybody would care. No. To us, it was just a tree.
But to Evelyn Nebergall, it was more than just a tree. It was a piece of Tipton history.
Oh, everybody had a fit because that tree was going to be taken down because it's been a landmark for a long time.
So Evelyn and her friends from the Tipton Women's Club started a petition. Her efforts branched out and reached hundreds of others.
There's a lot of older people here in town, and we funny, but we like things to stay the way they were, and that's not the way it is in this day and age.
The day and age where businesses want a sign easy to read and a drive-through with easy access. But for once, the past took precedence over progress.
The tree's over 100 years old, and it's part of Tipton, and so he wanted to make, people happy. It's a small town.
So instead of bringing the driveway right through here, right to the drive-through, Hardee's changed plans, and they moved the entrance all the way over here to the corner. The consensus here is that it was the right move.
I think, hallelujah, we saved it.
And they also sparked a renewed revitalization project.
Well, I got in on the tail end of it. I wasn't one of the movers or shakers.
Tipton greenhouse and florist owner Dean Anderson organizes an annual Tipton tree planting plan. The Rotary Club donates the money and volunteers do the planting. Since the Hardee's tree controversy, volunteers have filled city streets with 500 trees.
I guess it was a springboard issue. I saw the need, and I love trees, and I wanted to see it perpetuated, and it just brought it to the public's attention that these trees are going, and they will be gone in another decade, another generation.
But if the Hardee's tree has another fall like it has for the past century, that's enough for our town, Tipton.
We're just real happy it's still here.
Jenna Miller, KCRG TV 9 News.
Organizers hope to have all city streets lined with trees by the year 2000. Well, Tipton boasts an important first in Iowa history. Next, we'll show you why this school was the first of its kind west of the Mississippi. Welcome back. An important part of any town is the education system, and our town, Tipton, is no different. It boasts the first public school west of the Mississippi. TV 9's Lori Johnson shows us how the schools grew over the years.
Schools in Tipton have changed a lot since this first one was built in 1856. Union School was the first public school west of the Mississippi. Today, a rock marks the original location, but the legacy of education that began here lives on.
You remember these folks? Oh, I certainly do.
Betty Emmerich taught school at the Tipton Community School District from 1953 to 1989. Even though she's retired, Betty finds time to volunteer at the high school a few times each week.
I think maybe the thing that makes me the most proud and happy as a teacher is to work with some people who were my students before that then became my co-workers for some 20 years.
Betty is like many teachers in the district. She doesn't consider teaching a job. It's a career.
We've always been really lucky that we've had foresighted board members and administrators who allowed us to always have the equipment we needed to do the best job of teaching that was possible.
Taxpayers in Tipton want the same thing. In December, they approved a $3.85 million bond to build a new middle school here near the elementary school. A 10-year, $2 million levy will pay for renovations to the high school.
And when we start the remodeling in 2 or 3 years, this room will be completely redone, lights, new flooring. The wooden floors, they are really a throwback. They're beautiful, but if you walk across these, you can't walk and talk at the same time because they squeak. I think it says something about the town that they know that if we're going to continue to have a strong school district here, we need to have strong facilities.
A pool is one facility students already enjoy. Computers and other technology, along with music, help give students a well-rounded education.
We have a plan of where we want to be, and I think when people see where you want to go, I think they have a lot more confidence and accept and will get on with you and get on board with you.
Administrators hope with new construction and a committed staff, the schools in our town, Tipton, will continue to prepare students for the future. Lori Johnson, KCRG, TV 9 News.
Administrators hope to have the new middle school built by the year 2000. You probably don't think of racing when you hear the name Our Town Tipton, but the Peterson family is a big part of racing, and they're from Tipton. TV 9's John Campbell says there's a better chance that you'll find them tearing up the tracks at the West Liberty Raceway.
How's he running? Good. We got to get fourth or better to get qualified for the future. He's sitting in fourth right now. In fact, up until now, this is the first car that we've ever bought that's been an actual
what we call a store-bought car because we've always been running homemade units.
And this is the late model car that Denny Peterson drives. He drives it, he works on it. His brother Devin's on the pit crew, so is his dad Ron.
And I get to buy the generators and the air compressors and things like that. I probably got a little more money in here than I realized, but it's fun. Denny and Devin make a good team. Denny knows what the car is doing out there by driving it, and Devin's got a real good feel just by watching the car what it's doing.
If I'm watching where he's running, and I know a lot of the other guys, and I know that the ones that drive like Denny, if I see them and doing something different that I know he can do, then he trusts me to tell him.
There's a lot of times out there in a first lap he can tell me if the car's better before I can tell if the car's good. I mean, I come in and I talk to him what's it doing, and he reads me.
You were starting to, about 7th lap on, you were starting to pull on Brow, otherwise he was catching you. Sometimes he listens and sometimes he doesn't, but he's got the final say in everything.
This is the 7th year that Denny Peterson has been racing. He started with a Bomber and has worked his way up to late models. They used to race Farley and West Liberty, but now the Petersons pretty much limit themselves to one night a week, plus some special events.
My wife is completely supportive of this. She wouldn't miss a night racing. She wouldn't want to see me quit. I don't know what I do.
So you'll be doing this for a few more years?
I hope so, yeah.
Sounds like the Petersons of our town, Tipton, have their Saturday nights planned for some time to come. I'm John Campbell, KCRG TV9 Sports.
John got into that one. Well, Denny Peterson won his first feature race of the year last month. Many people picture Iowa as a flat state with nothing but cornfields, but if you travel north, you'll see beautiful cliffs and small towns rich in history. One of those towns is our town, Cresco. Cresco boasts a heritage of more than 130 years. TV9's Gerald Resnick shows us how people made our town, Cresco, what it is today.
By looking at our town today, you'd never guess the largest community in Howard County was the last to be founded. This brought the first people to Cresco in 1866, 12 years after the first settlers moved to the county. That's when Augustus Beadle started surveying land for the McGregor Western Railroad.
And he also happened to own quite a bit of farmland. And surprise, surprise, the railroad came through his farmland.
Cresco lived up to its name, which means I grow in Latin.
Railroad, of course, brought all the business, and the population went from basically 0 to 2,000 in just almost months. It really jumped in a hurry.
It basically stole its population from surrounding communities that lost out to the railroad boom. Many no longer exist because families and business owners literally picked up everything to get close to the rail.
Those older houses and even businesses were moved here mostly in the wintertime by oxen over the snow and ice.
This piano came with the first Congregational Church. It and other antiques now sit at the Howard County Historical Museum at the Kello House. Cresco's families left behind their belongings and a legacy for a community that's as much a place as the people who made it.
This was a dress that was worn at the wedding of a doctor in town here, and he went into Chicago himself and bought the dress and the bonnet for his bride-to-be.
Cresco has its share of celebrities, people like Norman Borlaug, who won the Nobel Prize for developing disease and drought-resistant grains. Ellen Church grew up in Cresco. In 1930, she went to the president of United Airlines to pitch a unique idea.
She approached the president with the idea that there should be a woman on board the passenger planes. In those days, the crew was all men, and she thought there should be a woman on board because in those days, of course, flying was very upsetting, and there were many people got sick.
Church and her friends became the country's first flight attendants. And then there's the 5 admirals. That's right, 5 seafaring admirals.
It's unusual because of our location in the middle of the country.
Cresco has also boasted quality entertainment since Victorian times. First, there was Lyric Hall in the 1880s. Then the 82-year-old Cresco Theater came along.
And this man out of Chicago booked vaudeville shows. And he said, Cresco must have a theater or an opera house for me to book some vaudeville shows for your entertainment of the area.
Volunteers saved the Cresco Theater in the mid-1970s from almost certain demolition. Now the community is planning another renovation to make sure this important part of our town's past stays around well into the next century. Gerald Resnick, KCRG TV9 News.
That theater is just beautiful. By the way, the Howard County Museum at the Kello House is open for tours on Sundays or by appointment. One of the most beautiful places in Iowa flows near our town, Cresco. Next, TV9's John Campbell takes us on a tour of the Palisades of the Upper Iowa River.
Just had a glitch on that film. The Palisades of the what is Palisades?
Welcome back. How about a ride down the river? You can take that trip in our town, Cresco. Cresco is a great jumping off spot for a trip down the Upper Iowa River, and that's where TV9's John Campbell is headed.
Our Upper Iowa trip started just up the road at Hershka's Canoe Livery in Kendallville. From there, it was just a few minutes to the water.
It's more a scenic river than it is whitewater. Well, the farther down you go, the higher the bluffs will get. In this area we're going to be at right now, they'll probably reach around 250 foot high, the Palisades will.
Dwayne Hershka and I worked a short section of river between Kendallville and Bluffton. It was early summer, but Dwayne says autumn is also a great time to canoe the Upper Iowa.
Oh, it's nice when the leaves turn. A lot of people go down and stuff like that. It's always kind of a tricky period because that's about the time you get the rains too, and you got a short season for leaves. There's a crane right there, a couple of them.
We not only saw herons, we were also graced by this beautiful bald eagle. Minutes later, the limestone cliffs that draw people to this section of the Upper Iowa River.
This is the Palisades right here. On top you'll have fir trees, probably a few balsam fir. That this area's got a few of them, which are not too prominent in Iowa, I guess.
Now this has been great. We've been middle of the week. We haven't seen a soul today.
No, it's because it's cold out.
Don't tell them that. This is a great place. This is the way I like it. Temperatures were in the lower 50s that day, but you don't notice the nip when there's so much else to absorb. Isn't this beautiful, these cliffs behind us? This is the Upper Iowa River, and you can be a part of this. Get up to Cresco, get up to Kendallville. This is something else. From our town, Cresco, and the Upper Iowa River, I'm John Campbell, KCRG TV9 Sports.
He has a tough job, doesn't he? Well, John says that you can make a trip down the Upper Iowa about as long or short as you want to. Many towns in history have a favorite son. In our town, Cresco, he is Dr. Norman Borlaug, winner of the 1970 Nobel Peace Prize. And what Borlaug learned in Cresco helped feed the world's hungry. Just a few miles south of Cresco, you can still find remnants. This is where a young boy learned the importance of feeding the world. That young boy is Dr. Norman Borlaug. Borlaug grew up amid these green pastures to become the father of the Green Revolution. He saved millions from starvation through his wheat genetics research.
And the line fence to the west is up there where those trees are. There's
some of the best stories of his childhood can be told by his sister, Charlotte Colbert.
And I think this is where he gives so much of his credit for the values that he had obtained at this small 106-acre farm.
Charlotte is happy to offer tours to the curious. She understands the importance of preserving a family farm that helped shape an international leader. The property is now managed by the Iowa Heritage Foundation. Work on the 1921 home has been a slow process, but restoration is underway. This one-room schoolhouse has been moved to the site.
He loved things of nature. He liked to hunt and fish and trap.
Charlotte credits her parents' influence on Norman and thanks small-town leaders and mentors who helped guide her brother, those who encouraged him to enroll at the University of Minnesota.
When he first went up there, I remember him saying he had to pass an entrance test, and he flunked it, he said, beautifully. And so, but he was able to enter their general college, and so he made up the credits he needed.
Then he went into forestry, the forestry department.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no civilization without its stable food supply. There was none.
Borlaug won the Nobel Peace Prize for food production in famine countries, India and Pakistan. He then created the World Food Prize in 1986. The $200,000 award is supported by Des Moines businessman John Ruan. Borlaug is also involved in the Global 2000 project with former President Jimmy Carter. Borlaug works in African countries and helps develop high-grain yields.
If we don't get African countries south of the Sahara going in the next few years, the Sahara isn't going to stop huge migrations of hungry, miserable people into Europe.
So while Borlaug is traveling the world, his sister is continuing the tours back home, sharing memories of a small-town boy who's solving big problems.
Although Borlaug lives in Mexico City, he also teaches agriculture classes at Texas A&M and makes frequent visits to Cresco. What makes a healthy economy? Next, we'll show you how our town, Cresco, thrives from the right mix of business and community spirit. Welcome back, everyone. Unemployment in Howard County is at its lowest point ever due to several healthy Cresco businesses. Join me as I visit the town's largest and one of its smallest employers to find that risk and hard work equal big success in our town, Cresco.
This is the sound of a successful business. Featherlight, Cresco's largest employer, makes horse, livestock, and race car trailers. It boasts at least 80% of that fast-moving market. And the likes of Toyota, Target, Mizuno, and Kraft have all purchased Featherlight trailers for product displays and transport. The nationally recognized company has been here since 1979, and new owners moved the corporate headquarters here 5 years ago. They've grown from one production building to 3, and just a handful of workers to more than 1,700. Featherlight wages stay competitive while unemployment is low.
And we've got employees here at Cresco working from as far south as Waterloo, Rochester, Minnesota to the north, La Crosse in Wisconsin, and over to Mississippi River on the east and over to Mason City on the west. And basically our goal has been to make Featherlight the best place in northeast Iowa to work.
Conrad Clement, his brother and sons, had been in the ag equipment business before they purchased Featherlight. The Clements took the company public a few years ago, and that provided capital for even more growth.
Sure.
Gary Kreiner has been with Featherlight for 17 years.
Our real growth spurt has come in the last 10 years with Cresco. Cresco's been very good for Featherlight. You know, they worked with us on a lot of programs, provided a lot of good employees, and at the same time, Featherlight's been a good plus for Cresco, you know, with housing and people, jobs. The one thing that I've seen is a lot of people that left during the 80s are moving back into this area. Good jobs, and we're able to provide that, so.
And the company continues to grow. They've purchased 2 luxury motor coach lines. These eye-poppers have $500,000 price tags, and the buyers are serious travelers.
In every step that we've had along the way to build new plants, increase our capacity here, build the corporate headquarters down here. It's always a milestone.
You might imagine that the town's mayor is thankful Featherlight calls Cresco home. The town's infrastructure is healthy, and the renovated Main Street is a model that other small towns envy.
You have to keep working at it. You can't just sit still, otherwise you're going to go backwards and then you die.
And future Cresco projects? The mayor is hoping the town will support an expanded runway at the airport, one that will accommodate corporate jets. Meanwhile, the only flying done at one of Cresco's smallest businesses is by these bees. This sweet enterprise is called the Golden Ridge Honey Farm. Family-owned Golden Ridge was cited by the governor as a value-added business.
Because we produce it, a product, and then we process it, and then we pack it out and it's taken to the grocery store shelf.
This little golden bear may look familiar. Golden Ridge honey is sold at Iowa Fairway stores, which feature Iowa products. 1,200 hives help produce 60,000 pounds of honey each year. This is the time when bees are busiest.
We do the extracting in August and September, and the main honey flow is on right now. And so the spring is the build-up time, and then when we go into June, last of June and into July is the main honey flow.
So whether it's sweet or swift, Cresco can boast about some very interesting and successful family businesses.
Our town, Cresco, revamped its downtown in 1983. They widened Main Street, redesigned sidewalks, and installed new lighting in front of all of the businesses. Sometimes a town is named after a famous resident or a geographical location. Our town, Maquoketa, is named after a river. The name Maquoketa is part of an Indian saying. It either means there are bears or Bear River. And as TV9's Dave Fransman reports, the bears of Jackson County disappeared soon after settlers arrived.
When John Goodnow arrived with a wagon load of trade goods from New York State in 1838, he may not have planned to start a community. But the area was a good crossroads for wagon trains heading west. And when Maquoketa's founder made a land claim right about this section, others picked adjoining sections as well. And when you put it all together, this was the start of Springfield. Springfield? Well, that was the original town name, but the post office objected, saying too many Springfields existed already. So settlers chose the Indian name for the area, Maquoketa.
Now, one of the early plans to help Maquoketa grow was to increase the transportation options, and that meant getting a steamboat to actually come up the Maquoketa River. Well, sounds like a fine idea. The Maquoketa is not that far from the Mississippi River. The only problem is this is very shallow, and let's say that idea didn't float.
Since the river plan didn't work, it took the arrival of the railroads to give Maquoketa another big boost. But growth didn't come without a squabble. Originally, the river town of Bellevue housed county government for Jackson County. Then the community of Andrew, home of Iowa's first governor, grabbed the county seat title, and this courthouse operated there. Finally, in 1873, the faster-growing town of Maquoketa staked a claim as Jackson County's chief city, and that's where the courthouse has stayed.
There are still hard feelings over that. I'm confident that fight is still continuing.
In the early days, Maquoketa's biggest industry actually was just north of town. It was the lime kilns in the company town of Hurstville. But while generations of school kids soaked up a little local history on a field trip here, fewer may know about this man, Robert Millikan. Millikan moved to Maquoketa as a 7-year-old in 1875. He was a friend and contemporary of famous scientist Albert Einstein. Millikan won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1923, but he's not a household name in his own hometown.
Kids should be taught about that we've got this famous person. They don't know that this guy really was famous, and they should be taught that.
And what would an Iowa town be without a colorful character? In Maquoketa, the name you hear is Charlie Nigg. In the early 1900s, Nigg lost a political bet and paid off by pushing a wheel cart from Maquoketa to the Pacific Ocean. Charlie's gone, but the cart's still here, a part of our town's history. Dave Fransman, KCRG, TV9 News.
We can put that against the...
This is the 75th anniversary of the Nobel Prize won by Maquoketa student Robert Millikan. One of our town's most beautiful attractions was discovered more than 150 years ago. During a hunting trip, 2 men followed a deer through a ravine and into an area filled with caves. TV9's Scott Lind gives us a tour of this natural wonder known as Maquoketa State Park.
Hundreds of thousands of years ago, water from melting glaciers formed caverns in the limestone rock that sits below Jackson County. Today, it's one of our town Maquoketa's favorite attractions.
Water chemically reacts with the limestone. The elements in the water will react with the limestone, and eventually, over a long enough period of time, will form the caverns.
The Maquoketa Cave State Park sits a little more than 6 miles northwest of our town Maquoketa. Each year it's host to more than 60,000 visitors. Nearly 100 years ago, before tourists began visiting the park, horse thieves and other fugitives used the dark caverns to hide from the law. On our trip to the caves, one visitor reported that the horse thieves seemed to be gone.
Have you seen any horse thieves at all today?
Wait, you mean that dead man back there? No, we have not. No, did you? No, we haven't. The Maquoketa Cave State Park offers many opportunities for folks who are really skilled at going through the caves and also at climbing rocks like, hey, get closer, like climbing rocks like I am. And you know, if you don't like to do this sort of stuff, there's also plenty of trails to walk on.
Mother Nature did a pretty good job here. She made all different sizes and shapes of caves. Some of them you can walk into, you don't have to get dirty. Others you have to crawl to explore, and in those, yeah, you do get dirty.
No matter which caves you prefer, the Maquoketa Cave State Park has something for you. With all the natural beauty here, your trip to our town, Maquoketa, could be picture perfect. In our town, Maquoketa, I'm Scott Lidd, KCRG TV9 News.
And the caves get a little cold in the fall, so take a sweater. The park also offers campground space, but park officials say the campground fills up every weekend between May and November. In our town, Maquoketa, you can find a large selection of collectibles. As a matter of fact, it's the largest antique shop in the Midwest. We'll take you there next. Welcome back. I'm Liz Mathis. Our town, Maquoketa, boasts the largest antique mall in the Midwest. So if you're looking forward to going back in time, join TV9's Jenna Miller, antiquing in our town, Maquoketa.
When you would sit in this and sit at the table, you'd feel like kings and queens.
Verl Banowitz already feels like a king because that's what they call him in Maquoketa, the Antique King.
Well, yes, they do say that. And I guess being that we operate on a pretty large scale, that is why I guess they call me the Antique King.
How's this for large scale? Almost an acre of antiques, 150 different vendors. The history dates back to the early 1800s and runs up to $25,000.
You don't find this every day. It's very unusual to find.
Verl says all antiques are unique, and when you buy antique, you buy a piece of history. He should know about both. He's been in the business for 40 years and plans to pass it on to his son, Ben.
I'll go to, even at Iowa State, I'll say I'm from Maquoketa, and even students out there know, that's where Banner's Antiques is, and I'll say, that's my parents. So it's pretty awesome knowing what they've built up, just the two of them, and I hope I can carry it on and keep up the tradition.
A tradition that runs through Maquoketa. Stores from DoubleTree Antiques to dolls and doodads line city streets. These antique dolls can cost up to $600, and folks come from everywhere for a look.
We deliver anywhere you want, so where you folks from?
We're from Missouri, outside.
Customers say it's worth the trip whether you're looking for a complete dining room set or a little old bottle of beer for $9.50.
Yeah, here's one here for $9.50. So
why is that one $9.50?
Well, I don't know.
From the smallest to some of the largest pieces of history, this 1882 Queen Anne mansion was the first home in Maquoketa with running water and electricity. It's now one of the top bed and breakfasts in the nation.
We had a 5-page feature article in the Country Inns magazine in 1995. And then at the end of the year, they select their top 24 inns in the nation, and we were chosen as one of the top 24 inns for 1995. So we were very proud of that honor.
The Squires Manor Inn boasts rooms filled with furniture from 1800 to about 1870. This hand-carved 4-poster bed was made during Thomas Jefferson's presidency.
Yeah, if only they could talk.
But of course, even the lure of history has its limits. I don't think they had jacuzzi tubs back then. Jenna Miller, KCRG TV9.
Well, Squires Manor rooms range in price from $75 to $190 a night. Our town, Maquoketa, is filled with Cardinal fans. Not the St. Louis Cardinals, but the Maquoketa Cardinals, coached by Bill Fleming. Everyone in our town knows Bill Fleming. Scott Sable introduces us to the legendary basketball coach of the Maquoketa Cardinals.
Everyone in Maquoketa knows where Coach Bill Fleming lives. His house is the one with the incredible full-length basketball court.
It's made out of sport court. It's an amazing surface. You drop a pop bottle from 6 feet, it bounces. There's a great deal of forgiveness, and baskets go up and down. There's a glass board at each end. And it's about 80 feet long and 46 feet wide. We got a pop machine. We got a drinking fountain. We got chairs. It's a pretty good layout, really.
You get some pretty heated games out here?
Heated, that's a good phrase. Yeah, the sun's not very forgiving, but that's one of the reasons why we're good. The kids play during the summer, and that helps a lot.
To say Fleming is a fixture in Maquoketa is an understatement. He will start his 32nd season as the head basketball coach for the Cardinals.
31 years, we've won 17 or 18 titles, finished second 10 times, and been in the state tournament 6 or 7 times. So we've won more than our share, but that's directly responsible, I think, of what kind of kids we had. The record I told you that we were the most proud of was that every kid that's played for me for the last 31 years is still alive, and then we lost a young man a couple of weeks ago, and that was the first one, and I'm still having a tough time getting over that.
But over the years, his record shows just, his success, and he spends so much time and money and effort into coaching these kids that, it's well deserved.
How much has your game improved under his tutelage?
A lot. I used to be terrible. My shot just used to be probably the worst looking shot around, and couldn't dribble very well, and it's all the fundamentals he's taught and stuff, and it just works up to getting the complete games.
I don't really think I've had a real job. You get to do this, you get to be around young people, and get to play a little bit yourself, and being around them helps keep you a little bit young too.
Is that why Bill looks so young? Scott Sable, TV9 Sports.
Nice dunk. Well, Bill says this could be his last year at Maquoketa. He has an offer to coach at a small college where his son plays ball. People of many different ethnic backgrounds call Iowa home. People from Norway, Czechoslovakia, and Germany all found a place to settle in Iowa. Just southwest of Cedar Rapids sits a band of one of those communities. These communities house a rich German history nestled deep in Iowa. These are our town, the Amanas. TV9's Dave Franzman says that history makes the Amanas a magnet for tourists every year.
The history of the Amanas is a lesson both in religion and geography. In the early 1700s, 2 Lutherans in southwestern Germany grew dissatisfied with their faith. They founded a religious movement called the Community of True Inspiration. In 1843, 700 inspirationists, weary of religious persecution, followed leader Christian Metz from their German home at Ronneberg Castle to a new settlement near Buffalo, New York. But rapid urbanization encouraged the colony to keep looking westward. They discovered religious freedom and 26,000 acres of land along the Iowa River in 1855. If those earliest Amana settlers return today, they might marvel at the visitors who line the streets to experience the culture and crafts of bygone days. But they probably would recognize many buildings from the first days of colony life. And many parts of Amana worship life would be familiar too, even 140 years later.
The arrangement here in church, the segregation by sex, men on one side and women on the other, and the clothing, men in business suits, ties, and women in black dress, aprons, shawls, and black caps.
There was no cooking in individual homes. All families ate their meals at a communal kitchen in each village, a dining arrangement that persisted for nearly 80 years. In 1932, all that changed as Amana residents voted to end their communal life and instead receive stock in the Amana Society.
Of course, one of the big changes after the Great Change in 1932 that people had to get used to was the fact that no one was going to feed you any longer. The communal kitchen system had ended. Of course, in one sense, it still does exist, and that's the well-known restaurants of the Amana Colonies.
While much of Amana's history is studied, documented, and even for sale at gift shops, some Amana stories take the form of legend.
Basically, I was told that Jesse James robbed the South Amana store. And in my youth, of course, at that point, I did not know who Jesse James was, but that was then clarified for me by my grandmother and so on. And from that day on, I just simply accepted the story.
Well, professional historians say it's possible, but the first written word connecting Jesse James to the Amana robbery was a newspaper article 40 years after the event, making them a bit suspicious. Still, with or without a Wild West connection, the story of the Amana Colonies fascinates visitors and keeps them coming back for more. Dave Franzman, KCRG, TV9 News.
The name Amana has a religious connection. It's the name of a hill in Lebanon first mentioned in the Song of Solomon. So what was life like back in the late 1800s for Amana colonists? We'll show you how a theatrical group wants to keep history alive in our town, the Amanas. That's next. Welcome back. I'm Liz Mathis. Visitors to the Amana Colonies can now take a magical trip back in time. TV9's Mark Thomas shows us how the Old Creamery Theater Company is recreating what life was like for colonists back in 1890.
The Old Colony Project immerses visitors into the life and culture of Homestead more than 100 years ago. The experience puts visitors right away into the role of a group who came into town after their train broke down. You come across actors who are dressed in authentic costumes who are also taking part in the arts and crafts of the time.
The people you see out here believe it is 1890 and they will not break their character for anything.
You can rub shoulders with woodworkers and also meet the local handyman.
I will do the chores for her and take care of the horses for her husband, who is the doctor.
Amana is such a unique colony anyway because of its communal history, and then to be able to come and experience that communal history is something very rare. It's an opportunity to see what communal life really meant, and it's a lot different than you might expect.
The Old Colony Project really gives people a snapshot in time, and let's go talk with one of the locals here, Bruder Pater. And Bruder, what do you think of all of the people coming to visit you?
Well, this is not so good that they have the trouble with the train, but we always help the people out in need, you know.
Bruder Pater took time to visit with some of the stranded travelers. One, he learned, came from Cedar Rapids.
The starch works and also the cereal mill, but they want us to eat that oats, the rolled oats. That's not so good, that's horse's feed.
The Old Colony also gives visitors a glimpse at what church was like, with men and women sitting across the aisle from each other. The visit would not be complete without taking in a Homestead Colony lunch, with men and women again sitting on different sides of the room. Afterwards, it's time to leave and catch that train, but not without some special memories.
Oh, the buzzing of the bees in the licorice trees by the soda water fountain.
What is this thing, by the way? You stick a stick in my face.
Yeah, this is a microphone, they call
Yes,
that,
well,
so we can hear you better.
Hear me better. But you have the good ears? Maybe you need an ear trumpet so you can hear better, yeah? Okay.
In Homestead, Mark Thomas, KCRG TV9 News.
Well, performances are at noon, Tuesday through Saturday until August 22nd. Families in our town, Amana, offer a history lesson with a good night's sleep. There's an alternative to the traditional hotel or motel room when you visit the Amanas. TV9's Gerald Resnick tells us they now offer a soft bed and a hearty breakfast.
At the Beckerai Bed and Breakfast in South Amana, you can soak in the morning sun.
The outside is so serene and so quiet, and the roosters crowing, and it really is a throwback in time.
8 years ago, the Pasbrig family took our town's rundown communal bakery and turned it into a place where people can relax.
I think that people find security. They also find a lot of nostalgia. We have the grates on the floor, and in the morning when the cinnamon rolls are baking, the odor will just kind of drift on up. You'll hear the other things frying, and it creates a whole mood, and people say, this is just like Grandma's.
You'll find that family atmosphere in Middle Amana. Betty Peterson now makes pancakes where 19th century families worshipped. New families from every state meet for breakfast at Peterson's Roses Place every morning. Guests now eat where children once learned the Bible. They write what they want on the original blackboard. You'll even find the piano that once played hymns sitting quietly in the corner of the communal Sunday school.
Until the year of the Great Change, 1932, this served as one of 6 communal kitchens here in Homestead. Families met here several times each day. Now, guests of the Rawson House Bed and Breakfast do the same thing.
Janice Rawson and her husband rescued this building in the late 80s. It took years of renewal and renovation to get it to this point. Like the 6 other bed and breakfasts or inns in the Amanas, the Rawsons put some of themselves in every room.
I think it allows you an opportunity to express yourself as best you can.
You'll find lots of blue at the Rawson House.
Blue was the color that the Amana people were allowed to use because you were to always have your thoughts toward heaven.
The owners of these B&Bs pray the people who stay admire the little touches, the pictures of family, the collectibles, the history.
They'll say your house is beautiful, and they genuinely appreciate what you've done, and it feeds you. It gives you what you need to keep going.
I like people around, I like activity, and I see so many retired people that are lonely. I'm never lonely. You know, I always have something to do.
And so do those who stay.
Breakfast time is the best time of the day. That's when everybody gets together, and we give that history lesson every morning, and we just have a great time sharing.
In our town, the Amanas, Gerald Resnick, KCRG TV9 News.
Oh, that looks great. If you'd like more information about the 7-bed and breakfast located in the Amanas, contact the Amana Colonies Convention and Visitors Bureau, or you can log on to our homepage on the World Wide Web. The address is kcrg.com. Just click on the link to our town. Here you'll find information about any of our towns that we visited in the last hour. Who can visit the Amanas and not visit a restaurant? Besides its religious heritage, the Amanas are also known for its wonderful food. As you know, Scott Sable loads up next. Welcome back, I'm Liz Mathis. And finally, everyone says the Amanas are known for their great food, so we sent TV9's Scott Sable to test some of the local cuisine.
The Amanas are loaded with restaurants, and most of them have one thing in common: family-style dining. That means quality food and quantity of food. What should I go with? I'm confused. Should I go with the top sirloin steak or the honey apple pork chop?
Get the honey apple pork chop.
All right, I'll go with the honey apple pork chop, and then you just bring me all the fixins, right?
Correct.
How many fixins do I get?
7. Today we're going to bring you the cottage cheese, our lettuce salad, our manna breads, white and rye. Then we're also going to bring you corn, kraut, potatoes, and gravy.
All that?
All that.
All right. Let's do it.
Can I bring you a beverage?
Just a glass of water, because I want to eat a lot.
Okay.
After I polished off 2 salads, man, they got good cottage cheese, I headed back to the kitchen. Look at that. That's the dessert table. Anyone looking?
I saw that.
Now, I noticed on the menu it says all the food that's not eating is discarded. Where's it discarded?
It ain't discarded here. No, we have a piece of equipment over there we call the pulper. It's just a big garbage disposal is what it is.
So it all goes to waste?
Yep.
You gotta be kidding me.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's nothing going to waste when I'm eating. I went to town. Remember, it's free refills. Oh, time to loosen the belt buckle.
Grilling.
And hey, I wasn't the only one making a pig out of myself. That's what family-style dining's all about. You know what I always do? I undo my belt buckle. You can do that if you'd like, Irving. Can I? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. It makes a little more room. It makes you feel a lot more comfortable.
That's better.
They're okay.
We usually bring our whole family up here, and there's like 15 of us, and we usually have about 5 or 6 servings apiece. Everybody likes them mashed potatoes and the bread.
More corn. I wonder if the station knows that I'm going to expense this. And I left plenty of room for dessert. What are you kids staring at? Haven't you seen a grown boy eat before? Yeah, barely made it out of the ox yoke alive. And you know why they have those benches, you know, those swings in front of all those family-style restaurants? Because most of the time you can't make it too far before you just have to kick back and let it all hang out. Scott Sable, TV9 News.
Oh, the Amanas have a wide assortment of family dining. To whet your appetite, just take a ride to the colonies and see what meets your taste. We hope that you've enjoyed visiting some of the special communities that make Eastern Iowa a wonderful place to live. That's why we call them all our town. Thank you for joining us.